I actually wasn't ready, but I'm ready now. So, tonight, everyone, I want to talk a little bit about um, how being conformed to this world can blind you in more ways than one. And I want to tell you a story. First, I want to start off by telling you a story. It's not my story, actually. It's my daughter's story, but she called me today and was telling me about it, and it brought back memories of when I used to be a caregiver, when I worked in nursing homes. So the story she was telling me was that it took place sometime this morning, or maybe mid-afternoon. But anyway, her and my grandson was going to the library. He goes there. She takes him there, and they have activities, story time, and stuff like that. And so when they got to the library, she realized she forgot her phone at home. So she went back to go get her phone, and it was a good thing she did, because as she pulled up to her building, she noticed that there was a wheelchair sitting outside of a car. And as she looked, there was an old man laying on the ground. Now, mind you, she's in the suburbs of Chicago. Anyhow, it's snow there and it's very, very cold. And he was laying in the snow. So she gets out of her car to go and see what's going on. And as she's approaching, she noticed that there's a younger guy on the other side of the car trying to put the wheelchair in the car. And so she asked him, did he know if there was an older guy on the other side of the car on the ground? And so she said that he looked at her, I'm assuming it was the guy's caregiver. And he looked at my daughter as if he didn't know what was going on, what she was talking about or whatever. So she's telling him that the guy was over there on the ground, and so she said that he wasn't moving fast enough. So she started helping him get the guy up off the ground and to get him situated, get him in the car or whatever, what may have. But she was so thankful that she had forgotten her phone, because the young man that was caring for this guy and his wife apparently had on earbuds. So had she not came up, this guy would have been still laying there while he's fiddling around with the wheelchair, laying in the guy would have still been laying in in the snow. But the point is, when she told me this story and told me how unconcerned that the caregiver was acting and moving as slow as he was moving, it immediately brought back memories of my time working in nursing homes. And this story is still, every time I think about it now, this story is disturbing to me. It was in the 90s. I worked in a nursing home. I won't say where. In fact, I think it's closed down now anyway, but I worked third shift. And usually the facility wasn't that big. It was probably, I say maybe at the most, probably maybe 89 residents. Uh, yeah, probably 89 at the most. If that many, probably not even that many. But anyway, it was so long ago. But anyway, I worked third shift. Usually it would be two CNAs on third shift because it wasn't that many people, and one nurse. Really, it should have been more, but this facility was it wasn't the best, put it like that. And so there was an African-American lady that I cared for. She had both her legs amputated. And there was a Caucasian lady that she roomed with. They both roomed together. the Caucasian lady was in her stages of Alzheimer's. Um, why they were in the same room together, but like I said, this was back in the 90s. At this time, this facility was just doing what they want to do, to be honest. And so this particular night, it was just myself and a nurse in the facility. It was a male nurse. And, this, the lady, the African American lady that was in the wheelchair, I usually got to their room last to get them down for bed and get them situated and all that. So I went down to their room. I had just made my rounds in the other couple of halls, went down. So I was headed to their room. I made it to their room, and I go in, and the African American lady is sitting on her side. She's sitting in her wheelchair. She's looking kind of distraught. And the other Caucasian lady, she was on her side of the room, fiddling with her clothes in her drawer. And so I go over to her side. I get out her gown and I lay everything out for her, get everything, for to wash up and all that stuff. And so I go back over to the African American lady, and I'm like, I'm asking her, you're not uh, too happy tonight. What's going on? And she said, well, I don't know if I should say anything. I said, what do you mean? Say anything about what? What's going on? And she said, well, do you think you can stay in the room with us tonight and just stay in here until the nurse come and pass meds? And I said, well, honey, I can't do that. I got a lot of other people I got to get to. And she said, well, I said, what's going on? And she said, well, every night he comes in our room, and when he thinks I'm sleeping, he goes over and fondle my roommate. And I said, it caught me off guard. I was kind of in shock. I was in shock. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I kind of just stood there for a minute, and I said, can you say that again to me, please? And she said, when the nurse comes down to pass meds, he fondles my roommate. I said, have you told anybody else this? She said, no. She said, I told you because I don't trust everybody in here. And it gave me chills thinking about it right now. I felt like I had to do something. I didn't even care if my job was on the line at this point, because I didn't, I know this woman. I know for a fact this woman is in her right mind. I talk to this lady every day. She was only in there because of her amputation. She really didn't have anyone home that would care for her or her family or anything like that. So she was all in good mind. and so I'm saying, now, had it been the other lady telling me this, now I would have had to, go back to the drawing board and maybe think on this. But because I know this lady is in her right mind, I got to do something about this, even if it costs my job. And then I was thinking, Lord and behold, if I don't get fired and I got to work with this nurse on third shift every night, and he know I told, hey, I might come up missing or something. God forgive me. But at this point, I just didn't care. So the following day was actually my day off. But what I did, I went in there anyway. I went to the supervisor's office, and I told her I needed to speak with her about something. And I said, I don't know, how you're going to take this. I don't know what's going to be done. I said, but my job is to report it. And so I did. Sat down, I went through the whole story with her, and I was just hoping on a prayer, that um, they did their job to find out if this was really going on, and if it was, they got rid of this guy nurse on third shift, because I don't need no problems, and they definitely don't want no more problems in their room. Well, I don't think the other lady really knew what was going on because of her illness. She probably didn't remember or wouldn't remember anyway, but the other lady got tired of him sneaking in a room at night. So that's why she spoke up. But so at the end of the day, after I got it all out, I had to come back to work the next night. And guess who I was working with? The same nurse. But only it was me and the other aide that usually works with me on third shift. She came in that night. So I felt I felt safer and more at peace about it. But I still wasn't happy about the fact that even after me reporting that, he was still there the next night. As if they just kind of looked over it, swept it under the rug. And honestly, I think that's what they did, because he never left. He never left. And I reported it again. I wanted to know what was going on about it, because I would still have to work with them. And when I went into her room a few nights later, she told me, she said, did you report it? I said, yes, I reported it. She said, well, he's still coming in our room. I said, I know, but I did what I could do. I did my job. At that point, I didn't know what else to do. So, after reporting at that time and I seen nothing got done about it, I just couldn't work in that facility anymore. I couldn't bear, working with this lady and she knowing I couldn't do it. I had to quit. So I was saying all that to say, I personally, when I became a CNA, I loved it. I I um I knew it was what I wanted to do because I loved caring for people. I loved comforting people. I loved spending time with the elderly people. When I was a young girl, I used to go through our neighborhood and sit and drink coffee with the older people in our neighborhood, and just listen to their wisdom, their stories, And I mean, it made me feel joy. I felt peaceful being underneath the elderly. And so when I became a CNA, I just took to it. I took to it, enjoyed it. What I did not like was a few times, people didn't always respect CNAs. They thought they would, make it seem like we're doing the nastiest jobs ever because we have to clean up behind some. Well, I was called a certified shit cleaner, excuse my language. And you know what? I didn't care. I didn't care because if it meant me cleaning them up, making sure they're fresh, comfortable, I didn't care what I had to do it. But that's not what um, that's not all that CNAs do. We we are ultimately the ones that bring light to the facilities. Without us, there will be no facility. Really, CNAs should get paid more than RNs and LPNs because a lot of the time we're doing some of their work and more. So, but anyway, being a caregiver don't always mean that you're caring. You can be a caregiver, you can wear the title CNA, but it doesn't mean that you care about your job. A lot of them, just simply there for the money. So if you're just working for the money, you don't care about their comfortability. You don't care if they're at peace. You don't care if they're happy. You don't care if they got joy in their life or not. You know, but you have the ones that honestly take time out and really give their all to make these people feel wanted, needed, comfortable, happy. We get so busy serving this world till we don't we don't see we don't see what's in front of us. We don't see the need to be gentle, be kind, none of that, caring, none of that. We don't realize that one day we can be in those very same shoes. We could be in those very same shoes. And, you know, when we conform to this world, we lose our ability to see the need to help others, be kind and caring to others. A lot of times we get burned out. And when you get burned out, you feel you lose the fire. You lose the fire and desire to do your job with dignity. You lose focus. You lose focus on what you're supposed to be doing and how you're supposed to do it in the right way. I for the life of me, I don't understand why so many people are so quick to put their loved ones away in these facilities. Put them away in these facilities and forget about them. So many times I've worked with so many elderly people that I actually sat and cried with. I couldn't help myself because after hearing their stories and how they talk about how they were placed in there and forgot about, no phone calls, no holiday visits, no cards, no nothing. No nothing. Their children place them in these places and simply forget about them. And then you place them in the care of people that a lot of times don't even care. A lot of times they're abusing. They're abusing, mistreating. They go home. After they do it, they go home and sleep well and come back the next day and do it all over again. And, it really hurts my heart to know that people can do this to the elderly. It's like doing it to a child. You can do this to the elderly and think nothing of it. It don't hurt you. It don't bother you. It's a lot of people in the world like that. A lot of people just begin to lose compassion. When you go through life, and a lot of people, they've been taught that way. They've been taught to just keep it moving, keep it pushing, keep numbing it, and somewhere in there, they lose the empathy for others. They lose, and I don't know, it's really hard. It's hard not to, it's hard. It's hard not to be angry about this. You know, it's it's really sad, you know, and for the people that do this job or take on these positions, if your heart is not in it, stay away. If your heart is not in this type of work, if you don't have the patience, if you don't have the care in your heart to love on these people like they should be loved, then don't take the job. Don't take the job just for money, because at the end of the day, you will pay. And one way or another, you're going to pay for the way that you mishandle other people's loved ones. You never know when it could happen to your family. It could happen to your mother. It can happen to your father. It can happen to your sister, your brother, even your child. Abuse has no eyes. They don't see. It doesn't see. It don't care. And like I say, it's a lot of emotional abuse. It's not so much physical. It's more emotional abuse than physical. You have the ones that, you know, belittle the elderly behind closed doors. You know, yell at them, talk about them, taking their belongings, making them feel like they can't do anything. You know, they're already feeling alone on the inside. They're already feeling like, you know, their life is possibly halfway over, you know, but then for you to come in and abuse them mentally and physically, your mind has got to be loose as a goose to mistreat people that you're supposed to be uplifting and caring for. You know, a lot of caregivers just, they don't want to do a whole lot. They want to come in, they want to sit, watch TV, eat their snacks. They want to do the bare minimum. The bare minimum. And they tend to want to get the patients that's less verbal, that don't speak up or can't speak up much, or, you know, don't have a voice at all. They really love those kinds. If they're abusive, if they're an abusive caregiver and just an uncaring person, those are those are the ones that they want. The ones that's not verbal, the ones that can't really speak up for themselves, the ones that they can scare easy and stuff like that. You know, I think that it should be a better screening. I don't know what they could do to possibly screen these people better, to sift them out, sift the bad out from the good. I don't know. I don't know. You know, I just think that there should be more of a watchful eye on these people. For the elderly that have family, I suggest that you keep more of a watchful eye on your family, your mom, your dad, or whoever may be in these facilities, or whoever you may have coming into your home to care for these people. care for your family, because I'm going to tell you, if you don't keep an eye out, nobody's going to keep an eye out. If you don't know nothing, nobody else is going to know nothing. So, I suggest that, when it comes to stuff like this, you should be very visual, because in these facilities, a lot of times they stick together. It might not come off like that, but they do. If they can keep it under wraps, they will. So that's why it's always good that you make extra trips to go see your mother, father, whoever you may have in one of these facilities. If you don't live with your parents, but they have a caregiver coming in, make it your business. Even if you got to take a day off of work, pop up on a day that you know that caregiver is there. Check in and just, sit, lounge around. This is my mama house. I'm just lounging around. I want to see what you're doing up in here today. You ain't got to tell them like that. But to be honest, just do it. Because when I did home health care, you can pop up. Their kids were more than welcome to pop up any day of the week. What they're going to see is their mother, father is clean, fed, comfortable. The house is clean. Everything is in line and in order. Before I leave their home, I'm going to make sure that they're comfortable. Their meal is, if they want their meals prepared for the following day, that will be done. Anything they need, I went above and beyond. I even did extra things that I didn't have to do. I did it because why? Because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good knowing that they feel good. And this is how it should be. If you're going to be a caregiver, do your job. Do your job and do it right. Don't half-step, because you don't want no one half-stepping if it comes to you or your family. Then again, I don't even know if you care about your own family. But at the end of the day, if it came to you, you wouldn't want anybody to neglect, mistreat you, not pay attention to you. It's bad enough they're already feeling lonely, left out, forgotten about, and then here you are making it worse. And I'm not just gonna straight out, because I'm not blaming all caregivers. Don't get me wrong. I was a great caregiver. I know that there's many, many, many more. But I also know that there's a lot of bad apples out there, a lot of bad seeds. I've seen it for myself, and I know. And they put on masks. They wear masks. You might meet them, and they're oh yeah. You don't have to worry about your mom is going to be well taken care of. You don't got to worry about it. Soon as you walk out that door, your mama's calling the caregiver, and guess where she at? In front of the TV. Okay? So, don't be scared to pop up at any time. Listen, as I said, the blame doesn't go on all caregivers. And this story, I just wanted to speak on this because the story my daughter told me today, it really bothered me, because, there's even been caregivers to be known to go in caring for an elderly couple and end up with that couple's money and everything else, all because they went in there manipulating. So there's a lot of things that you need to be aware of. Just think about, before we rush into this world of noise, before we rush into it, we need to pause and just really take a step back and see the people that's entrusted to us, because I'm going to tell you something. Everything that you see may not be what you want. You have to go deeper, deeper inside. You need to know who you're dealing with before you start dealing with them. And that scene today, if I had a seen it, I'm glad that I didn't. And I am glad that my daughter forgot her phone, and but you know what? That was all God. That was divine intervention, because there's no telling what else could have went wrong with that situation. So I do thank God that she was there when she was there. And, you know, I don't know. Neglect doesn't always look like abuse. Sometimes it looks like just the indifference. You not thinking that you will be there one day. You not paying attention to other people's needs, the people that you're supposed to be caring for. Just take the time out to really appreciate the elderly. They are the ones that they carry a lot of wisdom and knowledge. And let me tell you something. When you hurt them, you hurting God. It's just like you hurting a baby. It's just like you hurting a baby or an animal. Okay? And I truly mean that. Because animals are vulnerable. They can't really. It's just like my puppy. She's a baby to me. Because she can't do what she need to do for herself like I can do for her. God entrusted her to me, and I treat her like a human. You better not tell her she's a dog. But to me, she's my baby. And if I can treat her that well, I'm going to treat everybody good. Hallelujah. But yeah, so that was just on my mind, and I just wanted to discuss it a little bit. I feel I could have touched on it a little more. But as of now, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm just going to leave it at, pay more attention to what's around you. Pay more attention to what's in front of you. And just be loving and kind to everybody. And if you're a caregiver and you're watching this, I pray your heart is genuine. Because if it's not, you need to find another job. And if you continue on doing this job, and you don't love or like what you're doing, it won't pan out for you. Okay? As I said, God sees everything. Just know it can be you one day, or your mother, your father, your man, your sister, your brother, your child. Keep it right. Keep it tight. God bless you. God bless you tonight. I love you guys.